Edward Stark rode through the towering bronze doors as the red keep sore, tired and hungry and irritable. He was still a horse, a dream of a long, hot soak in the roast of fowl on a feather bed. When the king's steward told him that the Grand Master Paisiel had convened an urgent meeting in the small council, the honor of the hand's persistence was requested as soon as it was convenient. It will be convenient on the morrow. Ned stabbed at as he dismounted. The steward bowed very low. I shall give the council your regrets, my lord. No, damn it, Ned said. It would not go to offend the council before he had even begun. I will see them. Pray give me a few moments to change into something more presentable. Yes, my lord, the steward said. You will give your lord Ares a former chambers in the Tower of the Hand, if it pleases you. I shall have your things taken there. My thanks, Ned said as he ripped off the riding gloves and tucked them into his belt. The rest of the household was coming through the gates behind him. Ned saw the violin pull on his own steward called out. It seems the council was urgent need of me. See as my daughter will find the bedchambers, and I'll tell Jarod to keep them there. Ariel will not go on exploring. Paul bowed. Ned turned back the royal steward. My wagon is still struggling to get in the city. I shall need appropriate condiments. It would be my great pleasure, the steward said. And Ned had come striding into the council chambers, bone-dry and dressed in his borrowed clothing, to find the 4 members in a small council waiting for him. The chamber was richly furnished. Irish carpets covered the floor and set instead of brushes at the corner of the 100 fabulous beasts, converted the bright paints in the covered streams of the summer aisles. The walls were hung with tapestries and novores and corvair and lace, and the pair of Valerian Sphinx flanked at the doors, polished eyes of polished garnet smoldering in the black marble faces. The council and Ned looked at least. The Annunciaries accosted him in the moment he entered. Lord Stark, I was sad to hear about your troubles on the King's Road. We have been visited in the Septon to light the candles for Prince Geoffrey. I pray for his recovery. His hand left the powder stains on Ned's sleeve, and he smelled the foul and sweet of flowers on a grave. Your gods have heard you, Ned replied, cool yet polite. The prince grows stronger every day, and he disentangled himself from the Eluge grip and crossed the room where Lord Renly stood in the screen, talking quietly to a short man who could only be Littlefinger. Riley had told the boy 8 when Robert won the throne, but he had grown into a man so like his brother that Ned found it disconcerting. Wherever he saw him, it was as if the years had slipped away and Robert stood before him, fresh from his victory from the Trident. I see you have arrived safely, Lord Stark, Riley said. And you as well, Ned replied. You must forgive me, but sometimes you look very imagined in your brother Robert. A poor copy, Ridley said with a shrug. Though much better dressed, Littlefinger quipped. Lord Renly spends much more on clothing than half the ladies on the court. It was true enough. Lord Renly was in dark green velvet with a dozen golden stags embroidered on his doublet. The cloth of golden half-cape was draped casually across one shoulder, fastened in the embroidered emerald brooch. There were worse crimes, Renly said with a laugh. The way you dress, for one. Littlefinger ignored the jibe. He eyed Ned with a smile on his lips that bordered the insolence. I have hoped to meet you for some years, Lord Stark. No doubt Lady Catelyn has mentored you. She has, Ned replied with a chill in his voice. A sly arrogance of the comment rankled him. I understand you knew my brother Brandon well. Renly and Brotherton laughed, very shuffled over to listen. Rather too well, Littlefinger said. I still carry the token of his esteem. Did Brandon speak of me too? Often with some heat, Ned said, hoping it would end. He had no patience with the game they played, this dueling with their words. I should have thought to heat I'll suit you Starks, Littlefinger said, here in the south. They say that you are made of ice, and melt when you ride below the neck. I do not plan to melt soon, Lord Bellis. You may count on it. Ned moved on the council table and said, Master Pelices, I trust you are well. The Grand Master smiled gently from his tall chair on the foot of the table. Well enough for the man of my years, my lord, he replied, yet I do tire easily, I fear. Wisp strands of white hair fringed the broad bald dome before his forehead above a kindly face. His master's collar was no simple metal choker for such Lewin wore, but 24 heavy chains wound together in a ponderous metal necklace that covered him from throat to breast. The links were forged with every metal known to man: black iron, red gold, bright copper and dull lead, steel and tin, and a pale silver, brass and bronze and platinum. Garnets and amethysts and black pearls adorned with the metalwork, and here there are emerald and or rubies. Perhaps we might begin soon, Master Grand Master said, hands knitting together atop his bloated stomach. I fear I shall fall asleep if we wait much longer. As you will. The king's seat sat empty at the head of the table. The crowned stag of Barthanon embroidered in gold thread on its pillows. Ned took the chair beside it, and the right hand of the king. My lords, he said warmly, I am sorry you have to keep you waiting. You are the king's hand, Barry said. We serve at your pleasure, Lord Stark. As the others took the accustomed seats, it struck Ed Stark forcefully that he did not belong here, in this room, with these men. He remembered what Robert had told him with the cryptics below Winterfell. I am surrounded by flatteners and fools, the king had insisted. Ned looked down at the council table and wondered which were the flatterers and which were the fools. He thought he already knew, but we are but 5, he pointed out. Lord Santos took himself to Dragonstone not long after the kings went north, Barry said, and our gallant Sir Bassinon no doubt rides beside the king as he makes his way through the city. He benefits the Lord Commander of the King's Guard. Perhaps we best wait for Sir Bassinon and the king to join us, Ned suggested. Roland Bassinon laughed aloud. If we wait for my brother to grace us with his loyal presence, it would be a long sit. Our good King Robert has many cares, Barry said. He entrusts some small matter to us to lighten his load. What Lord Varys means is that all this business of the coin of the crop and justice brought my royal brother to tears, Lord Brennan said. So if it falls on to us to govern the realm, he does send us to command from time to time. He drew a tightly rolled paper from his sleeve and laid it onto the table. This morning he came up to me and ride along with all the haste and asked Grand Master Percival to convene this council at once. He has an urgent task for us. Littlefinger smiled and he handed the paper to Ned. It bore a royal seal. Ned broke the wax with his thumb and flattened the letter to consider the king's urgent command, reading the words with mountain disbelief. Was there no end to Robert's folly? And to do this in his name, that was salt on the wound. Gods be good, he swore. Lord Edward means to say, Lord Renly announced, is that his gracious instructs us to stage a great tournament in honor of his appointment as the head of the king. How much? Asked Littlefinger mildly. Ned read the answer off the letter. 40,000 gold dragons to the champion, 20,000 to the man who comes in second, another 20 in the winner of the melee, and 10,000 to the victor of the archery competition. 90,000 gold pieces, Littlefinger sighed. And we must not neglect the other costs. Robert will want to Badagras feast. That means cooks, carpenters, servant girls, singers, jugglers, fools. Fools we have plenty in, Lord Renly said. Grandmaster Percival looked to Littlefinger and asked, will the treasure bear the expenses? What treasure is that? Littlefinger replied with a twist of his mouth. Spend me the foolishness, master. You know as well as I that the treasury has been empty for years. I shall have to borrow the money. No doubt the Lannister will come accommodating. We owe Lord Twain some 3 million dragons at present. What matters another 100,000? was stunned. "Are you claiming that the crown is 3 million gold pieces in debt?" "The crown is more than 6 million pieces in debt, Lord Stark. The Lannister are the biggest part of it. But we have also borrowed from Lord Tyrell and the Iron Bank of Braavos, several tertiary trading cartels of late, and I have turned to the faith. The High Septon haggles were worse of the Dornish fishmonger." Ned was gasped. Aerys Targaryen left the treasury flowing with gold. How could you let this happen? Littlefinger gave a shrug. "The master of the coin finds the money. The king and the hand spend it. I will not believe that Jon Aerys allowed Robert to beggar the realm," Ned said hotly. Grandmaster Percival shook his great bald head. His chains clinked softly. "Lord Aerys was a prudent man, but I fear his grace does not always listen to the wise counsel. My royal brother loves tournaments and feasts," Renly Baratheon said, "and he loathes what he calls counting copper." I will speak with his grace," Ned said. "This tourney is an extravagance the realm cannot afford." "Speak to him as you will," Lord Renly said. "We still will make best of our plans." "Another day," Ned said. "Perhaps too small for the looks gave to him. He would have to remember that they're no longer in Winterfell, where only the king stood higher here. He was but first among equals. Forgive me, my lord," he said with a softer tone. "I am tired. Let us call a halt for today and resume when we are fresher." He did not ask for the consent, but stood abruptly, nodded them all, and made for the door. Outside, wagons and the riders were still pondering through the castle gates. At the yard was chaos and mud and horseflesh. Shouting men that the king had not arrived, he was told. Since the ugliness of the trident, the Starks and their household had ridden well ahead of the main column, the better to separate themselves from the Lannisters and growing tension. Robert had hardly been seen, and the talk was that he was traveling in the huge wheelhouse, drunk as often as not. If not, he might be hours behind. But if he would still be here soon for Ned's liking. He had only to look at Susanna's face and to feel the rage twisted inside him once again. The lasting fortnight of the journey had been misery. Susanna blamed Arya and told her that it should have been Nymeria who died, and Arya was lost after heard what had happened to the butcher's boy. Susanna cried herself to sleep. Arya brooded silently all day long, and uttered stark dream of frozen hell reserved for the Starks of Winterfell. He crossed the outer yard, passed under the portcullis into the inner bailey, and was walking toward what he thought the Tower of the Hand, when Littlefinger appeared in front of him. You're going the wrong way, Stark. Come with me." Hesitantly, Ned followed. Littlefinger led him into a tower, down the stairs, across the small shrunken courtyard, along the deserted corridor, where empty suits of armor stood sentinel along the walls. There were relics of Targaryens, black steel with dragon scales crested their helm, now dusty and forgotten. "This is not the way to my chambers," Ned said. "Did I say it was? I'm leading you to the other dungeon that split your throat and seal your corpse behind a wall," Littlefinger replied, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Well, we have no time for this, Stark. Your wife awaits. What game are you playing at, Littlefinger? Catelyn is in Winterfell, hundreds of leagues away from you." "Oh," Littlefinger said, gray-green eyes glittered with amusement. "Then it appears someone has managed to an astonishing impersonation. For the last time, come, or don't come, and I'll keep her for myself." He hurried down the steps. Ned followed him wearily, wondering if this day would ever end. He has no taste for these intrusions, but he was beginning to realize they were meat and mead from the men like Littlefinger. At the foot of the steps was a heavy door of oak and iron. Peter Bailey lifted the crossbar and gestured Ned through. They stopped out the ruddy glow of dusk on rocky buffets high above the river. "We're outside the castle," Ned said. "You are a hard man to fool, Stark." Littlefinger said with a smirk. Was it the sun give it away, or the sky? Follow me. There are niches cut into the rock. Try not to fall to your death. Catelyn would never understand. What that he was over the side of the cliff, descending quick as a monkey. Ned studied the rock face with a bluff for a moment, then followed more slowly. The niches were here as Littlefinger had promised. Shallow cuts that would be invisible from below, unless you knew just where to look for them. The river was long and dizzy from the distance below. Ned kept his face pressed against the rock and tried not to look down for more often than he had to. When at least he reached at the bottom, the narrow muddy trail along the water's edge, Littlefinger was lazily against the rock and eating an apple. He was almost down from the core when you were growing old and slow. Stark he said, flipping the apple casually into the rushing water. No matter, we ride the rest of the way. He had 2 horses waiting. Ned butted up and trotted behind him, down the trail into the city. Finally, Baelish drew remained from the front of the ramble-shackle building. 3 stories timbered into the windows, bright with lamps and gathering dust. The sounds of music and raucous laughter drifted out and floated over the water. Beside the door swung an ornamental lamp on a heavy chain with a globe or a leaded red glass. Ned Stark dismounted in fury. A brothel, he said. He seized Littlefinger by the shoulder and spun him around. You brought me to all this way to take me to a brothel? Your wife is inside, Littlefinger said. It was the final insult. Bran was too kind to you, Ned said, as he slammed the small man back against the wall and shoved his dagger up under his little pointed-chin beard. No, my lord, no. An urgent voice called out. He speaks the truth. There were footsteps behind him. Ned spun the knife in hand, and the old white-bearded man hurried down toward them. He was dressed in a brown rugsman, and a soft flash under his chin wobbled as he ran. There is no business of yours, Ned began. Then a sudden recognition came. He lowered his dagger, astonished. Sir Roderick? Roderick Castiel nodded. The lady awaits you upstairs. Ned was lost. Catelyn's here, truly. It is not strange jape of Littlefinger's. He sheathed his blade. What that it were, Stark, Littlefinger said. Follow me, and try to look a shade more lecherous and a shade less like the king's hand. It would not do to have you recognized. Perhaps you can fondle a breast or two, just in passing. They went inside. Though the crown common room was a fat woman was singing prodigy songs, while pretty young girls in lines, shifts, and whiffs of colored silk suppressed themselves against their lovers, and dandled in their laps. No one paid Ned the least bit of attention. Sir Roderick waited below, while Littlefinger led him up to the 3rd floor, a long corridor through a door. Inside, Catelyn was waiting. She cried out when she saw him, ran to him, and embraced him fiercely. "My lady," Ned said, whispering in wonderment. "Oh, very good," said Littlefinger, closing the door. "You recognize her." "I'd feared you'd never come, my lord," she whispered against his chest. "Petrie had been bringing me reports. He told me of your troubles with Arya and the young prince. How are my girls?" "Both in mourning and full of anger," he told her. "Cat, I do not understand. What are you doing in the King's Landing?" "What happened?" Ned asked his wife. "Is it Bran? Is he dead? In other words, he dead was a word that came to his lips, but he could not say it. "It is Bran, but not as you think," Catelyn said. "Ned was lost. Then how? Where are you, my love? Why are you here, my love? What is this place?" "Just what it appears," Littlefinger, easing himself into the window seat. "A brothel. Can you think a less likely place to find Catelyn Tully?" He smiled. "As the chance I own this particular establishment, so arrangements were easily made. I am most anxious to keep Lannister from learning that Cat is here in the King's Landing." "Why?" Ned asked. He saw her hands there in an awkward way as she held them, and a raw red scar that stiffened the last 2 fingers on her left. You've been hurt?" He took her hands in his own. and turned them over. Gods, these are deep cuts. The gash from a sword, or how did this happen, my lady? Catelyn slid the dagger out from under her cloak and placed it on his hand. In his hand. This blade was sent to open Bran's throat and spill his life's blood. Ned's head jerked up. But who? Why would... She put her finger up to his lips. Let me tell you all, my love. It will go faster that way. Listen. So he listened, and she told it all from the fire of the library, Tower of Varys, and the guardsman of Littlefinger. And when she was done, Edward Stark sat in a daze beside the table. The dagger in his hand, Bran's wolf, had saved the boy's life. He thought dully. What was it John had said when they found the pups in the snow? Your children were meant to have these pups, my lord. And he had killed Susannas. And for what? Was it the guilt he was feeling, or fear? If the gods had sent these wolves, what fully had he done? Painfully, Ned forced his thoughts back to the dagger, and what it meant. The imp's dagger, he repeated. It made no sense. His hand curled around the smooth dragonbolt hilt, and he slammed the blade into the table. It fell to bite into the wood. It stood mocking him. Why should Tyrone Lannister want Bran dead? The boy has never done any harm. Do you Starks have no knots but snow between your ears? Littlefinger asked. The imp would never have acted alone. Ned rose a place and paced the length of the room. If the Queen had rolled this, or gods forbid, the King himself, no, I would not have believed that. Yet even after he said the words, he remembered that the chill morning on the Borderlands, Robert talked of sending hired knives after the Tegrin prince. He remembered Ragnar, infant son, and the red ruin of the skull, and the way the king had turned away. As he had turned away in the Darius audience hall had not so long ago. He could still hear Susanna's pleading, and Linda's had pleaded once. Most likely the king did not know, Littlefinger said. It would not be the first time our good Robert in practice at closing his eyes to things he would rather not see. Ned had no reply for that. The face of the butcher's boy swam up before his eyes, cloven almost in two. After the king had said not a word, his head was pounding. Littlefinger sauntered over the table, wrenching the knife from the wood, and an accusation in treason out of the way. Accuse the king and you will dance with Alan Payne before the words are out of your mouth. The Queen, if you can find the proof, if you can make Robert listen, then perhaps. We have proof, Ned said. We have the dagger. This? Littlefinger flipped the knife casually end over end. A sweet piece of steel, but it cuts two ways, my lord. The imp will no doubt swear the blade was lost or stolen while he was at Winterfell, and with his hireling dead, who was there to give him a lie? He tossed the knife lightly to Ned, and counsel in the drop of the river, and forgotten that if it was ever forged. Ned regarded him coldly. Lord Baelish, I am a Stark of Winterfell. My son lies crippled, perhaps dying. He would be dead, and Catelyn with him, but for a wolf pup you found in the snow. If you truly believe I forgot that, you are a bigger fool now than I took you up for a sword against my brother. A fool I may be, Stark, yet I'm still here, while your brother has been mouldering in his frozen grave for some 14 years now. If you are so eager to moulder beside him, far be it from me dissuade you. But I'd rather not be included in the party, thank you very much. I would be the last man who would be willing to include any party, Lord Baelish. You wound me deeply. Littlefinger placed his hand over his heart. For my part, I've always found you, Stark, a tiresome lot, but Cat seems to have become attached to you, for some reason I cannot comprehend. I shall try to give you a lie for her sake, a fool's task immediately, but I can never refuse your wife for anything. I told Peter I was suspicious about John Arryn's death. Catelyn said he has promised to help you find the truth. That was not news to Eddard Stark welcome, but it was true enough that they needed help, and Littlefinger had almost a brother to Cat once. It would not be the first time Ned had been forced to make a common cause with a man he despised. Very well, he said, thrusting the dagger into his belt. You spoke of Varys. Does this Inuch know all of it? Not from my lips, Catelyn said.
You did not wed a fool, Edward Stark, but Varys was not ways of learning things no man could know. He had some dark art, Ned, I swear it. He has spies, that is well known, Ned said, dismissive. Is it more than that? Catelyn insisted. Sir Roderick spoke to Sir Aaron, staggering in all secrecy. Yet somehow the spider knew that of the convention. I fear that man. Littlefinger smiled. Leave Lord Varys to me, sweet lady, if you will permit me a small absence, and where it be for that matter. Be for here. I hold that man's balls in the palm of my hand. He cupped his fingers, smiling. Or what if he were a man, or had any balls? If you see, if the pie is open, the birds begin to sing, and Varys would not like that. I would worry more than Lannisters, and less about the Anouch. Ned did not need Littlefinger to tell him that. They were thinking back to the day Arya had been found, to the look on the Queen's face when she had said, "We have a wolf, so soft and quiet." Yet she was thinking of the boy Macan, and Jon Arryn's sudden death. Of Bran's fall, and the old mad Aerys Targaryen dying on the floor of his throne room, while his last blood dried the gated blade. "My lady," he said, turning to Catelyn, "there is nothing more than you can do here. I want you to return to Winterfell at once. If there was one assassin, there could be others. Whoever ordered Bran's death will soon learn enough that the boy still lives." "I had hoped to see the girls," Catelyn said. "It would be the most unwise," Littlefinger put in. "The Red Keep is full of curious eyes, and the children talk." "He spoke truly, my love," Ned told her. He embraced her. "Take Sir Roderick and a ride for Winterfell. I will watch over the girls. Go home to our sons and keep them safe." "As you say, my lord." Catelyn lifted her face, and Ned kissed her. Her maiden fingers clutched against his back with a desperate strength, as if to hold him safe forever in the shelter of her arms. "Would the lord and the lady like to use the bedchambers?" asked Littlefinger. "I sworn you, Stark. We usually charge for that sort of thing around here. A moment alone. That's all I ask," Catelyn said. "We're very well." Littlefinger strolled up the door. "Don't be too long. It is past time the Hand and I return for the castle before our absence is noted." Catelyn went to him and took his hands to her own. "I will not forget to help you. Give me Petrie. When your men come for me, I did not know whether you were taking me to a friend or an enemy. I have found you more than a friend. I have found a brother I thought I lost. Lord..." Petrie Bellish smiled. "I'm desperately sentimental, sweet lady. Best not to tell anyone. I spent the years convincing that the court and I am wicked and cruel, and I would hate to see all hard work go for naught." Ned believed not a word of that, but he kept his voice polite as he said, "You have my thanks as well, Lord Bellish." "Oh, now there's a treasure," Littlefinger said, exiting. When the door had closed behind him, Ned turned back to his wife. "Once you are home, my sweet, send a word to Helm Hardroth and Gabe Glover under my seal. They will rise 100 bowmen, each of 40 Moat Kellen. And 200 determined archers can hold the neck against the army," instructed Lord Manderly, "that he is strengthened and prepared all his defences in the White Harbour, and see what they are well mannered. And from this day on, I will carefully watch the keep of the Theon Greyjoy. If there is a war, we shall have sore for the need of his father's fleet." War? A fear was playing on Catelyn's face. "It will not come to that," Ned promised her, praying it was true. He took her in his arms. "The Lannisters are merciless in the face of weakness, and Aerys Targaryen learned his sorrow. But they would not dare attack the north without all the power of the realm behind them, and they shall not have. I must pay to the fools masquerade as if there was nothing amiss. Remember why I came here, my love. If I find proof that the Lannisters murdered Jon Arryn..." He felt Catelyn tremble in his arms. Her scared hands clung to him. "If," she said. "What then, my love?" "The most dangerous part," Ned knew. "All justice flow from the king," he told her. "When I know the truth, I must go to Robert, and pray that he is the man he is. I think he is," he finished silently, "and not what a man I fear he has become."